grant locally. Once we get the overall allocation locally, they can submit requests for some of this money. And we had several departments to submit, and we are recommending that you approve for the Columbus Police Department, $48,934. They are attempting to purchase 3 of the tag readers, and you know what those are, and those are revenue generating. That's revenue generating equipment that would be attached to the police unit. We are recommending juvenile drug court $14,190 for the obvious work that they do, and then adult drug court $30,000, and that would be the $93,124 that they are using it for their personnel support, and they've got some money that was carried over from prior years, and this money would help them get through the next year or so, and so it's for their personnel expenses. And ankle monitors, a portion of it for ankle monitors in the adult drug piece, yes. Small amount for ankle monitors.
All right, Councilor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, in follow-up, I know years back we talked about any time that a grant is utilized for salaries, that it's flagged by the city manager's office, so that if these grants ever do not, if we find that they're not available, that we are notified that these were grant-funded positions.
Exactly.
So that we can make a better decision in budget time.
And we, each year, we communicate to them that you're using it for personnel. If the money goes away, your personnel will have to go away.
Gotcha.
So they are clear on that.
Thank you.
All right, I believe that concludes discussion. There was a motion and a second, so at this time it is queued for voting. The item passes.
I've got the fiscal year 17 inmate capacity agreement. It's for 528 state inmates to be housed at the Muskogee County Prison. They've got to do these capacity agreements on an annual basis, and so we're asking your approval.
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion regarding this item? Seeing that there's none, it is queued for your electronic voting. All right, and it does pass.
I've got 2 items on purchase. The first, replacement vehicles for the Columbus Police Department. They want to use fuel savings to purchase these 2 pursuit vehicles.
Move approval of A and B.
Got a motion and a second for items A and B. Is there any discussion on either of these? These are a Dodge Charger pursuit vehicle, which is being purchased from the Georgia statewide contract, and B is storing, transporting, and recycle waste tires. There appears to be no discussion on either item. It is queued, both of them are queued for voting. Items A and B pass.
And Madam Mayor, I've got an update. It's a trail system update. Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge is going to do that, but we've got also with us today representatives, and I'll allow Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge to introduce them. PATH and then Community Foundation, but a special thank you to Betsy Covington, who without Betsy's involvement, we probably would not have the relationship that we have with the Knight Foundation. And you heard the $6,900 grant with no match. That's because of the Community Foundation and Betsy Covington and others, but I wanted to just recognize Betsy for her work, and but we've got 2 PATH representatives here, and I'm going to turn it over to Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge to give the trail update, but to recognize those with PATH who we work so closely with.
And good morning. We just wanted to come back and give a trail update, and we also have PATH that wants to talk about the first connection that we want to make as part of the Riverlink, and this is the connection between the Fall Line Trace and the Riverwalk. So what we have on the screen, which is really hard to see, I'm going to ask Jamal to kind of zoom in so we can kind of show this on the screen, and we've brought some boards too that might make it easier to see, just to outline the trail system that we have in Columbus and what we're trying to move forward and to add additional connections. We've been working with the Community Foundation, the Friends of the Greenway Trail, Ed McBrayer from the Path Foundation, and Greta DeMaio from Kaizen to continue to develop the trail system in Columbus. And so in the purple, the light purple, is the Fall Line Trace that goes from Salmon Road down to 10th Avenue. We have the Riverwalk that goes from Lake Oliver all the way down to Fort Benning, with a couple missing pieces at Bibb Mill and City Mill, which is part of the T-SPLOST project. We also have the Fall Line Trace that's under construction, which goes from Casita Road to Torch Hill Road, and that is under construction as well with the T-SPLOST project. So what we're working on is a trail system through the Community Foundation and the Friends of the Greenway Trail to develop the River Link, which will link all the existing trails together and then provide additional trail system within Columbus. The first trail that we're looking at is the connection between the Fall Line Trace and the Riverwalk, which will go from 10th Avenue down 5th Avenue to 14th Street to the Riverwalk, and they'll walk through the specific components of that trail system in just a few minutes. And then as we go forward and funding is identified either from the Friends of the Greenway Trail or from the city, we'll come back to council and develop additional trail links between the trail system that we're developing within the city. So at this time, I want to introduce Betsy. Did you want to do an intro? Betsy Covington with the Community Foundation, who we've been working with for probably a year and a half now on this Greenway Trail.
Thank you. Thank you, and thank you for your kind words, City Manager. Good morning, everybody, and welcome, Councilor Garrett. Hope you are getting used to your chair. We appreciate your service. It is a privilege to be here this morning. Y'all have gotten to hear a number of presentations from me over the last 2 years about connectivity in our city. You know that a number of us came back from a Doable Cities conference in Chicago 2 summers ago, really on fire about Columbus's potential. This is about recreation, yes, but it's not about guys in spandex. It is about connectivity for everybody. It is also about transportation. It's about moms with baby strollers. It's about people who want to age in place in their neighborhoods and have safe, connected ways to get to grocery stores and neighbors' houses and places that they want to be. A number of people in Columbus learned about the Path Foundation after that trip, and you will hear from Ed McBrayer, who's the executive director of the Path Foundation, and from Greta DeMaio, who is the principal with Kaizen Collaborative, a group that does design work for Path. They have been instrumental in the development of the Atlanta Beltline, the Silver Comet Trail that heads across Georgia. Cities, particularly around Georgia, but across the southeast, are clamoring for Path's attention, and we are very lucky that they have agreed to work with us here in Columbus. They have designed and built over 200 miles of trail. So these guys know what they're doing. They know how to take what we have and make it even better. And I love that they are very experienced in the kinds of public-private partnerships that we're familiar with here in Columbus. They work well with GDOT, they work well with city governments, and they work well with private funders. So it is a pleasure to be here this morning. You'll get an update on their ideas for our Master River Link Trail Plan. And specifically, they'll walk you through the ideas for this first Riverlink connection to link the Fall Line Trace to the Riverwalk. So I just wanted to give you that little bit of background and context, and thank you again for listening. And I will turn it over to Ed and Greta.
Mayor Thomason and council members, it's a pleasure to be here this morning. I represent the Path Foundation. We're a nonprofit 501c3 agency out of Atlanta, and we started basically having spaghetti dinners and selling T-shirts, trying to build a mile or so of trail in Atlanta. And as of today, we're building our 250th mile of trail, and we've done it with a staff of 4 people. So we're scattered all over the place and working a lot of hours and enjoying every minute of it, I might add. We were asked to come down to Columbus to help with the trails. Y'all have already had a good head start. I was on the Transportation Enhancement Advisory Panel back in 1992 and 3 when Columbus was awarded money to start your Riverwalk project. So I remember it well, and I was very impressed with the presentation that was made to get your first Transportation Enhancement Grant, and I've been following you closely ever since. Our organization has a 2-part mission. One is to build a connected system of trails in metropolitan Atlanta for both commuting and for recreation, and the other is to go out and help other cities around particularly Georgia, but we've helped cities as far away as Baton Rouge and Kauai, Hawaii, and Lexington, Kentucky, generate trail systems in their cities. So we've shared our expertise, and I'm paid for by the donors that we have in Atlanta. So I come to you free. Greta represents Kaizen Collaborative. She's our chief design consultant. She does a great job, and she's worked with me for over 20 years now. She doesn't look old enough to do that, but she is. And we came down to Columbus, and we were inspired by the community that you have down here and the steering committee that was put together, and the willingness of the city to work with us and try to get something on the ground. Even though we plan a lot of trails and conceptualize a lot of trails, we really are about implementation. I don't get involved in many cities that aren't ready to build something. So we're glad we're here today talking about building something. When we came down and started our planning and design effort, what we saw immediately was you had this beautiful Riverwalk, and you had a really nice fall line trace, and it seemed like the city wasn't, those two weren't connected, but then the city wasn't connected to the Riverwalk. It was hard for people a mile or 2 or 3 away from the river to get to the Riverwalk. The other thing we noticed was, even when you're downtown, you couldn't tell where it was. There wasn't a beautiful gateway down to the Riverwalk, particularly for cyclists. As a pedestrian, you can weave your way down there, but there wasn't. I came down and rode with Mayor Tomlinson on one of her Tuesday rides, and people were asking me, well, where's the Riverwalk? And of course, if you walk far enough west, you see it, but there's not a gateway to it. So what Greta and I did is we spent some time down here and realized the best service we could perform for you would be to try to connect the whole city down to the Riverwalk that you already have. So we came up with the name RiverLink, and we came up with the logos for you, and we think we've got a good branding system for your whole trail network. And we're very excited that a 9-mile long trail and a 14-mile long trail, the first thing that essential to get done, in our opinion, is to give you a 25 plus or minus mile trail that's continuous. I think that's the first service we can perform for you. If we can encourage you to do that and help you do that, then I think you'll be off and running and have the makings of a great trail system. So we've come up with a map here that basically connects is the trunk line system, if you will, of a trail network that will connect everybody to the river. So I assume this clicker works. Great. So close up the fall line trace to the Riverwalk, you'll see there. We are masters at retrofitting a developed area of a city with a trail system. That's sort of what we do on a regular basis. And so this was a challenge, but we think it's something that you'll be proud to implement. So when you're coming down the Fall Line Trace toward downtown Columbus, the first major obstacle you come to is 10th here, which this little crossing, everybody, I think, speeds up to go through it rather than slows down. So as a cyclist or a pedestrian or somebody pushing a baby carriage or walking a dog, I wouldn't even be encouraged to cross there. So we came up, we want to enhance that crossing and make it really stand out. Use some of the new NACTO standards for striping. Put a full-blown hawk signal there that's a red light for pedestrians and for cyclists. It stops traffic, and enhance the median, everything, so that it's a very nice crossing, and it encourages you to continue down the Fall Line Trace toward the Riverwalk.
Just for reference, this is the medical center, just, I guess,
Yeah.
Just make sure everybody knows where we're starting.
Yeah, we start right at the what that would be the southwest end of the Fall Line Trace, I believe. There is the abandoned rail corridor continues across. This is the hospital down here in the lower left-hand part of your picture there, and you'll see the former railroad prominently across the northern, through the parking lot, and then over to Linwood. And that right-of-way there is owned by the city, and we propose to build the continuation of the Fall Line Trace across on the railroad over to Linwood. So like this. Then Linwood, this is one of those times when you need us the most. We're used to doing this, taking the existing right-of-way, public right-of-way, and enhancing it so it's good for pedestrians and bicycles. So this is what we're proposing to do. There's no travel lanes lost here. We are taking space out of the street, but there's plenty of width in the street. And putting the trail in, actually moving the bus stop out and making it what we call a floating bus stop, and have the trail go behind the bus stop, and that way it wouldn't interfere. The people getting on the bus wouldn't be in conflict with the trail. So it would continue along beside the cemetery. Might add that we have been had a lot of contact with all of the stakeholders along this route, and we feel like we have the general approval from everyone based on the concessions we made and the design that we have changed and made compatible with everyone's wishes. And this is along Linwood here, crossing over the railroad track and going down 6th. We are altering the right-of-way of Linwood between 5th and 6th so that there's room for the trail. Right now it's a one-way street with multiple lanes. We are providing still 2 lanes so that there's a right and left out of Linwood on the 5th, but we're making a nice median and room for the trail, safe passage, so that right now cyclists, a lot of them come down Linwood and turn and go south on 6th, which is a very dangerous conflict zone because a lot of motorists keep going on Linwood down to 5th. So we are eliminating that conflict zone by taking the cyclists and the pedestrians down to 5th and then having them travel along 5th southbound. And this is the area along 5th that right now is not, it's kind of unsightly really. It's kind of an abandoned parking lot, and it's not very well maintained, and we're proposing to do this to it and make it kind of beautify it and try to put a tree canopy through there. We've negotiated a landscape easement with the property owner so that we'll be able to put landscaping on both sides of the trail and take the trail where basically the existing sidewalk is. So this will be a very enhanced corridor right through here. So that's it in plan view. Then we turn and go westbound on 14th Street like this. We're trying to, you understand, we're trying to make this not necessarily with the spandex cyclists, as y'all call them, in mind, but with the general public in mind, and tourists in mind, and people that would normally turn around on the Fall Line Trace and go back, and rather than deal with traffic and that type of thing. We're trying to give them a real nice facility to get them down to the Riverwalk and all the venue downtown. So this is along 14th going toward the recently completed project down by the river, and we're proposing to do this to it. So we will take a little space out of the road and move the curb out and give room for a full-blown trail that any family would be proud to and feel safe on, going between the Riverwalk and the Fall Line Trace. So it goes sort of like this. And we've still got some permits to get with GDOT. We work with GDOT on a regular basis. PATH has been on the cover of their Milepost magazine 3 times already, so we're in like Flynn with them, so we can help the city get the permits necessary to get across Veterans and to go along 14th there. So these are just shots showing the general makeout, and that's back to the overall. That was it. Anything you want to add?
No, if we have any questions, I don't know if that's
Yeah, I'd be happy
appropriate,
to
but
answer questions.
All right, well, we've got questions. We've got Counselor Huff.
Good morning.
good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back to the city of Columbus. Thank you for all your work. I was very impressed when Betsy Covington invited me. I can't remember the date, last year sometime, I guess. And we had the meeting and the presentation. And it was very enlightening for me to know what was really going on. And the city manager has talked to me several times now to put the brakes on me, to slow me down a little bit, so that we can try and tie a few things together, because we have the T-SPLOST program project coming up. And he's mentioned to me that we'll be able to look at tying some of that in with the Martin Luther King piece to
Right.
try to get it done. So I guess my question this morning is, will Martin Luther King piece be second after this?
It will be as far as we're
Because
concerned.
we're
but
coming,
that's-
we're coming with, the project, I guess, starts later this year, next year, and then I guess we complete out about 2018, 19? 18.
At this time, we haven't put the plan together of how the links would be staged, but MLK is one of the links, and the committee had discussed that being the next link, but there would be funding that needs to be identified for that to
Okay.
happen.
Because
And we're working, Deputy City Manager Hodge is working really hard to identify state funding,
okay.
so we're working on that.
Okay, because you had mentioned to me that we could better utilize our paving money for Martin Luther King.
Right,
in that
and
project.
that funding is still set aside, the $850,000 for the MLK project, so we're
Okay.
trying to match that in order to do additional work to add the trail to that project.
Okay, okay. I just put my request in to be next.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, we have Counselor Garrett.
Thank y'all for coming today. I had more of a comment. Just Councilor Huff and I attended a presentation at the Chamber last night, and one of the things they said we really need to focus on was manufacturing in the high-tech job sector. And I attended a presentation with Ms. Covington earlier this year, and one of the things that they brought up, which I think is very important, it's got a twofold effect. One is obviously I guess it hits both ends of the socioeconomic spectrum. One, if we have more transportation ability, particularly where Councilor Huff was talking about, allows people to get to work that don't have, motor vehicle transportation. But more importantly, for our tax dollars, from what I understand from the presentation, this is integral to recruiting technology companies here. They want a very bike-friendly city, so I see this as a very important investment. They'll pay long-term dividends, but I didn't really have a question for you. I just wanted to make that comment to my other councilors. Just commend you all for what you all have done.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Counselor Woodson.
Thank you very much to Betsy and to Pat. I appreciate it. I like the arts and the walks and trail. I had a question. I just came from New York, and I took a lot of pictures to come back. And I know that we have a lot of abandoned rail trails, And I want to share them with you later. I was very intrigued, very amazed, because they took areas, and I showed Gary, where the railroads are, instead of pulling them out, what they did was planted trees and flowers. And it's called the Highland Garden. And what they did was they took the rails and put like sidewalks almost like it, and you can walk it. They have where they can have lazy chairs where you can lay and read a book, and then you can see over the city because it's on the rails. And then what they did underneath the rails, they actually had fine restaurants, I mean, very elegant, unique restaurants underneath the trails of the railroad. And it's funny you're doing this presentation because I took all these pictures with the intent to come back and talk to our engineering and to others and say, why can't we do this? And then I'm always talking about South Lumpkin Road. It's congestion, but it has life, and it's been, I would say, dying. You know, it needs some life because you have the Infantry Museum, you have Westville coming, and it needs some. So I took some pictures, and I'd love to share them with you. They were so innovative ways to take a small area and make it beautiful. And people felt safe. And this is in New York, near the Hudson River. I mean, you had homeless hanging around too, but people felt safe. There were families with strollers. There were people reading books. It was just amazing to me how they took a rail that was abandoned and made it a beautiful walking, beautiful space. And I like to see if, I know not now, but maybe in the future with the city and y'all looking at some of that on some of our abandoned railroads while we're going through connecting the past. Because it was, I mean, my girlfriend kept saying, we got to go, Mimi, we got to go. And I didn't want to go. It was so beautiful and calm. So I like to share those with Betsy or staff or someone so we can have a conversation later.
It's so funny because Betsy just came back from seeing the High Line too.
Oh,
And it does set the bar very high when it comes to a trail, and it is a favorite of ours too. So.
Yeah, but what I liked about it that was so unique is that they used vegetarians, you know, they used lots of plants, and the plants seemed to make you feel more relaxed. I mean, you didn't even notice at times that you were on a railroad, an abandoned railroad. It was just amazing. And as you're talking and I see these things and I see the development of the sidewalk, I actually went to see, I guess y'all showed a presentation of 42nd, I think was where they took the sidewalk and closed it up and made it a sitting area. I even walked through there, I even sat there, and I even, they also done it on a busy way, you know how you divide up the roads, coming this way and that way, curve. They actually set a little area there where people can just sit and watch the traffic. And I was amazed how they put the two little trees, like you did with the plants there. They put a bench, and I was amazed how people felt comfortable in the middle of traffic, but yet they felt good. And it was just very inspiring.
See, what I think is going to happen is when we connect the Fall Line Trace to your Riverwalk. I mean, your Riverwalk, I mean,
It's amazing.
It's such high quality materials and was so well thought out and has such a vista that if you embrace it a little bit more as far as enforcing some of the things, we've heard a lot of comments from cyclists and pedestrians that that people didn't follow any rules. There really wasn't any enforcement present to try to encourage people to stay to the right and for bicyclists to yield to pedestrians. But if you kind of start managing the trail a little bit better and just do a few things to make the whole thing feel like a continuous ribbon, I think your trail can ultimately be just as impressive as what you saw in a different way, because you've got the river and you've got all the scenery and you've got the open space, and you've got it'll be kind of fun to come through the urban part of that, connecting the neighborhoods to the urban part to the river. I think is going to be an experience that that'll rival what you saw up there.
And I agree with you, because before on our trip, when the way Uptown has done the area where the skyline is, and where you have that little waterfall, which is very small, it's a children's waterfall, but they've made an amazing playground that was there too, so that when it connects, it really going to bring the community and the family there, because to me, that's a quiet little secret. Everyone, like, when you talk to people, sometimes they say, where is that at? Is that here? I said, yes, go to the end of the Riverwalk, and it's amazing what they've done. But thank you, I don't want to take a lot of time. I'm just all excited, and I love that atmosphere, and I was in the military, and I lived in Germany for 6 years, so I'm used to that, eating out on the restaurants, on the sidewalk, and the trees, and laying around reading a book and playing Frisbee. So I'm really excited of what y'all bringing, and hopefully we can do some more. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing that.
All right. Counselor Thomas.
Can you give us any kind of a timeline that we're looking at to get started on this and to get it?
Yes, ma'am, I certainly can. We were, Greta and I also designed and built the trail that goes all the way around Carrollton, and the trail summit, the statewide trail summit was there in April this year, where they announced that Columbus would be the host city for the 2017 Trail Summit, which is in April. So your time frame is that, assuming we don't run into any roadblocks, we will have the trail completely finished by the 1st of April of next year.
Yes, and I'd like for Deputy City Manager Hodge to speak to that as well.
Just to kind of get a little more specific about our timeline, what we're looking at is next week we would bring back a preliminary project agreement with PATH to move forward with this section of the River Link. We have a public meeting scheduled for June 28th at 6 o'clock from 6 to 8 at the Annex Conference Room to get input from the public and let them review this section of the Riverwalk as well as the overall plan for all of the connections. And then we'll put out this section to bid. We did receive the plans from Greta, and at no expense to the city. So the design has been completed at no expense to the city, and so we'll put that bid out and get it processed as quickly as we can so that we can move forward to try to meet the timeline of this summit that's coming up in April.
Great, thank you.
And,
Go ahead. Mr. City Manager. There's no more?
okay.
No more
Well,
questions.
and let me just say, I had the opportunity to travel with Councilor Davis, Glenn Davis, and Ken Henson, who has an interest in all of this as well, up to Carrollton to see firsthand some of the work of Ed McBrayer and his nonprofit organization. And we were all just blown away with what they've done in and around the city of Carrollton with these 12-foot wide concrete pathways, as you saw the example in the presentation, and they're absolutely beautiful. I mean, once this first one when we are able to complete this first link, I think it's just going to give Columbus a taste of what we can do throughout this community, and they're going to be, like you, Councilor Huff, ready for us to get started in areas in your particular districts. But this will just do wonders for Martin Luther King Boulevard, and I know you've seen some of the renderings that they've done, and you were excited about it when you saw them. So we're going to work this and move it forward, and I think we're going to be excited. And I also want to mention that I'm going to be on a panel at the Georgia Municipal Association with Ed McBrayer down in Savannah the end of this month. And a lot of people, there are a lot of eyes on Columbus. I'm going to be on 4 different panels at GMA related to what's going on in Columbus, Georgia with recreation, bikeways and pathways. I turned down 2. And so Yeah, I can't go down there for 3 days and be on that many panels, and I'm asking staff to prepare this for me and do this for me, and but a lot of people across this state, there are 535 cities in Georgia, and there will be 5,000 people down at GMA, but I've been asked to be on 6 different panels, and so there's a lot of interest in Columbus, and I just wanted to make you aware of that. While sometimes at home we can't appreciate all the amenities and the things that we have, but other people outside of Columbus are watching, and they're visiting, and they're asking questions, and they want you to explain. And so I just wanted to share that with you. But I am going to be on that panel with Ed down in Savannah.
Okay. Counselor Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. This seems very exciting, but I would like to ask, I haven't heard anything about projecting out cost of maintenance and that kind of thing. Could you provide council, I think you mentioned T-Splosh earlier, but could you provide council sometime in the near future, a cost analyst, maybe a 10-year projection?
Sure.
Once it's built out, what our budget would be impacted by?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
And in some cases, it will, these 12-foot wide pathways will help us because we're eliminating some mowing that we have to do. And of course, that concrete has a long life, but we will eliminate having to go out and mow some of the rights of way here in our city. So, but we'll bring that back to you.
All right. Well, it looks like there are no questions on that subject.
That concludes my agenda.
Great. All right. Thank you. We'll move on then to, let's see, we have Counselor Huff.
Yes, Mr. City Manager, got a text message. If you could check 925 Benning Drive. A citizen said they had called 3 times to try and get the grass cut. It's the house next door to her, 925 Benning Drive. It's a vacant lot. If you check that for me, thank you.
We will.
All right. Let's see. And also, Mr. City Manager, do check about the calls. I hate to hear that a citizen's called multiple times. And, sometimes they may have called someone else. We just need to make sure 311's working, and maybe you can report back on
We will.
that. Okay. Let's see. We have Counselor Henderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and I wanted to go back to the increase in allocation for the burn building and where those funds came from. And I think I'm all in favor of it. I think it's a great idea. But I'd like to have some way, if we have departments who are shifting funds from whether they're salary savings or some other budgetary savings, have that earmarked for discussion when we evaluate the FY18 budget. I know none of our folks are doing this, but I just want to make sure the public understands that we're not padding budgets so that we can reallocate funds and redirect them to other areas. So, and it may be a great time, as a matter of fact, sometime over the next 30, 60 days to get another list of funded but vacant positions, just so we know what's out there right now. I think in light of some of the innovative, and what the mayor did in trying to address with the police chief, some recruitment and retention efforts, I think was a very, very smart move. But I just want to make sure we don't have too many of these instances.
And I absolutely agree that we need to come back to you with that, and we need to tell you that there were salary savings in these various departments and why they had salary savings. Because, I mean, I think that should be used as a tool for you going forward to make budget decisions.
Agreed. And again, I don't think any of our department heads or elected officials have utilized that in a less than appropriate manner, but I just think for the public's purview, we need to be very transparent about where those are coming from.
Sure.
Okay. All right. We have the Mayor Pro Tem.
Also, when you come back on the salary savings, I know once before we looked at those positions that had been vacant more than a year and whether or not they were actually needed. to continue on
Sure.
in those departments.
Sure.
So we need to look at that again, too.
Yes.
Sure.
I believe, and make sure that Pam does, I think we eliminated all general government positions and saved $1.3 million into FY 14 and 15. It's just a number I recall from some of the budget letters that had been vacant for a period of time. And I think we did leave, of course, public safety, some different, concerns there. But I think to break that down and show where we have eliminated positions, because like I said, the number I remember is 1.3 million over 2 or 3 years were eliminated from general government positions, eliminating any vacant positions that had not been filled over a period of time.
Sure.
So, thank you.
And Mr. Budget Chair,
Yes.
we need to have some possible discussions on preparing for the budget for next year. So we can get some clear understandings up front when everything is due, and if it's not there on time, what happens. And also, if we're going to ever start building up our reserve at some point, and we've done this before, we told everybody up front, don't expect a budget increase in your dollar allowance for next year. That money is going to build up the reserves, and we've got to get back to building up those reserves. Because when we need some capital improvement projects done, you have to keep putting them off. And at some point, we've got to do them. We got to stop putting them off and do them. And I don't want us to get into the rut of, like we are with the trash trucks now. So we need to start seriously thinking about that.
Anything else?
Madam Mayor, that's all that I
Okay.
have.
All right, and we'll turn it over to the clerk then.
Madam Mayor, members of council, on the clerk's agenda, first item I have is a letter of resignation from Mr. Chong resigning from Hospital Authority needs to be received.
Got a motion and second that we receive with regrets. All those in favor, please state aye.
Then we have minutes of various boards.
Got a motion and second that the minutes be received. All those in favor, please state aye.
And I have an add-on resolution, a resolution to cancel the July 5th, 2016 proclamation session.
Got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye. Yes, Councilor Huff.
Since we're moving the proclamation meeting, I'd like to request, we have one young lady that's Assistant Principal of the Year in Columbus, and one for Public Store Manager on Macon Road. If we could move that to the June 28th meeting at 5:30.
Councilor
We
Huff.
don't, you're not going to meet fourth Tuesday?
We meet
Next-
next Tuesday.
Well, next Tuesday.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, just get us the information. Is it a proclamation or resolution?
Proclamations.
Yeah, if you'll just get that to Judy Tucker, and then we'll get the proclamation in and make sure it's on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be on the mayor's agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? All right.
On our board appointments, on the Civic Center Advisory Board, Mr. Walter Lewis, Councilor Barnes is working on a replacement for that District 1 nominee. Councilor Woodson also is working for District 7. Councilor Thomas, do you have someone for District 9 yet?
We have Councilor Henderson.
Well, I tried to catch you before we moved on. I was going to raise the question. We have an open date in July on the 19th. I don't know if we have a number of folks in order to keep them from getting onto the evening meeting on the, what would that be, the 26th?
I'll check. I don't think we have any proclamations
Okay.
set. If it's just the one, it'll be like today and probably shouldn't take very long. If for some reason they're piling up, we'll do something alternative.
Okay.
2, 3. Okay, well, if you'll get them into Judy Tucker as soon as possible so we can see how many they are, how long it'll take, and then we'll sort of moderate we'll let y'all know right away. If anybody else has one, get it into Judy so she can count them up. Thanks. All right, Tiny.
On our Golf Course Authority, we have,
We've got a motion and,
excuse me,
hold on, what do we got? Where are we?
we have 2 nominees for Ms. Rudine Nelson's seat, who is not eligible to succeed herself. And those 2 nominees are Ms. Stephanie Layor and Mr. Ricky Wright. We want to take a vote. Counselor Allen? We can. All right, we'll bring this back on next week at our next meeting. On our Circle Commission, we still need someone for Mr. Augusto's seat, whose seat was declared vacant. Also, for our Community Development Advisory Council, Council Davis is aware that Mr. Hayes is not eligible. For our District 9, Colin Martin does not want to serve again, so we'll need another nominee for that seat. And the Recreation Advisory Board, Councilor Woodson, we still need someone for your District 7 seat. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right, well, that concludes our agenda. We've got Counselor Huff.
Yes, just one last request to make sure I have it right. You said next week, June 21st at 5:30 or 9?
It's at 5:30 next week.
5:30. Okay, thank you.
All right, we will, we will meet again on Tuesday at 5:30. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please state aye. All right, we're adjourned.